They skipped my baby shower saying they were swamped with bills. 3 days later, my sister posted a photo with her brand new car. Unlimited love to our parents for this amazing upgrade. I didn't stay silent. I took action. My parents were shocked because they skipped my baby shower. That's how this started. Not a no-show because of an emergency. Not a miscommunication. They chose not to come. A week before the shower, my mom sent me a text that just said, "Hey sweetie, your dad and I can't make it. Things are really tight right now with bills. We're so sorry. We love you." That was it. No phone call. No "we'll come by after." No "we'll FaceTime." They didn't ask how I felt. They didn't say they'd try to send something later. Just, "We're broke," and apparently that meant I was on my own. Emily, my sister, didn't even bother replying. Not a single word. I texted her again the night before. "Hey, just making sure you're still coming tomorrow?" Nothing. That day I kept glancing at the driveway every time I heard a car pull up. I smiled and played hostess, but I felt this pit in my stomach growing. My husband's family showed up with balloons and this giant diaper cake. My friends brought cupcakes and made a game out of guessing names. But my family, my own family, didn't even send a card. I told myself maybe something serious had come up. Maybe they were too embarrassed about money to face me. Maybe Emily was going through something and just hadn't said. 3 days later, I opened Instagram while waiting for water to boil. There she was. Emily. Standing in front of a brand new Lexus SUV. Red bow on top. Big smile on her face. And the caption? "Unlimited love to our parents for this amazing upgrade." I'm speechless. I blinked at the screen. Read it again. Our parents. She was speechless. I was speechless. They told me they couldn't come to my baby shower because they were swamped with bills. But they bought her a brand new car. Not helped with payments. Not co-signed. Bought. The comments were full of hearts and "so lucky," and "your parents are amazing." And the dealership was tagged. I clicked on it. The post went up the day after my shower. They weren't struggling. They weren't home paying overdue bills. They were buying Emily a luxury car. I put the phone down and just stared at the floor. Not crying. Just realizing. Everything about the last few years suddenly made more sense. Emily was always the one they bragged about. Always the one they showed up for. I had just never seen it this clearly before. But now it was obvious. And something inside me flipped. I wasn't going to beg for their attention again. I wasn't going to send another text they'd ignore or pretend it was all okay. They had made their choice. Now I was going to make mine. The worst part wasn't even the car. It was realizing I had spent years justifying their behavior. Telling myself they loved us equally, they were just tough love people, not overly emotional. I used to tell my husband not to take it personally when they skipped out on holidays or barely asked about the pregnancy. I'd say they were just busy. But seeing that photo, that stupid, smug post with that perfect caption, it tore the blindfold off. I didn't rage text Emily. I didn't call my parents and scream. I gave myself a day to breathe. And then I made a decision. The next weekend we were supposed to have a small lunch at my parents' place. It was one of those casual things they insisted on months ago. I hadn't RSVP'd yet. I hadn't even mentioned the baby shower fallout. But I showed up. When I walked in, they acted like nothing had happened. My mom asked if I wanted tea. My dad gave me a half hug and said, "You're glowing." I was looking at people who had completely erased my baby shower from their memories like it never mattered. I sat down in their living room, looked around at the new throw pillows, the new coffee table, and, yep, the Lexus key fob sitting neatly in the bowl by the door. I asked where Emily was. My mom lit up, said she took the car up north for the weekend with friends. She deserves a break, she's been so stressed. I stared at her for a long second and then said calmly, "So you couldn't come to my baby shower because of bills, but you bought Emily a car?" My dad shifted. My mom blinked at me like she didn't quite understand the question. I repeated it. "You said you couldn't come. You told me you were struggling. But you bought her a brand new Lexus. Was that a lie, or am I just not worth showing up for?" My mom started fumbling over something about timing, and it was a gift we'd planned for months, and Emily's had a rough year, and we didn't realize your shower was that important to you. Didn't realize. That important. I was silent for a moment, then I stood up and told them I didn't think I could do this anymore. I wasn't going to be the daughter they remembered to care about when it was convenient. I told them that when the baby comes, I'd prefer if they didn't show up pretending to be involved. Because they weren't. And they hadn't been. I wasn't yelling. I didn't cry. I just told them I was done pretending. I told them actions speak louder than captions on Instagram. Then I walked out. They didn't follow. After I left their house, I drove straight home and blocked all three of them, my mom, my dad, and Emily, on everything. I wasn't doing it to be dramatic. I was done. I had nothing else to say. My husband knew something was off the second I walked in. I hadn't told him what I planned to do because I didn't want to make it a thing. But once I sat down and told him everything from the text to the Instagram post to what I said at their house, he just nodded and said, "Good." I thought that would be it. I thought that'd be the end of it. It wasn't. 2 days later, my cousin Sarah called me. She was hesitant, almost weirdly cautious, asking how I was. Then she said, "So, your mom called me. She's kind of spiraling." Apparently, my parents had told the family that I lashed out at them unexpectedly and told them they weren't welcome in my life. They left out the entire part about skipping the shower, about the car, about the fact that I'd been the one holding things together while they invested everything in my sister. Sarah had seen the Instagram post too. She told me she'd actually asked Emily about it and gotten a vague, smug answer like, "Well, I guess they just love me more." Didn't surprise me. But what did surprise me was what happened the next day. I got a message from my aunt, my dad's sister, on Facebook. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year. The message just said, "Amanda, I don't blame you. I'd be furious too. Call me if you want to talk." That was the first time I realized this might not be as isolated as I thought. Maybe I wasn't the only one they'd sidelined. Maybe this favoritism had gone deeper and longer than I imagined. I called my aunt. We talked for 2 hours. He told me things I never knew. That when Emily flunked out of college, my parents secretly paid to have her records wiped and transferred to a different school. That they'd borrowed money from my aunt years ago to help Emily start her Etsy business and never paid her back. That my mom once said, "We don't worry about Amanda. She'll always figure things out on her own." I didn't even know what to say. I just kept thinking about every time I'd bent over backward to keep the peace, to make them feel included, to not rock the boat. I was never the daughter they worried about. But I was also never the daughter they celebrated. And now that I'd stopped playing along, they were panicking. That call with my aunt unlocked something. Once I knew there were cracks in the image my parents tried so hard to maintain, I started looking closer. And I started remembering. Like the time I applied for a small business loan and asked my parents if they could co-sign. Not pay, just sign. They told me they couldn't risk it. Said it wasn't smart to get entangled in money stuff. That was 3 years ago. The same year they helped Emily launch her online jewelry store and paid for her inventory up front. Or when I got married and they gave us a toaster and an envelope with a $100 bill. Nothing wrong with that, except I found out later they had paid for Emily's destination engagement party in Cabo. Full flights, hotel, everything. I never connected the dots. I just kept thinking, well, she's the younger one, or maybe I'm being dramatic. I wanted to believe they loved us equally. Now I realized I'd been gaslighting myself. It got worse. A few days after I spoke to my aunt, I got a knock at the door. My husband opened it and it was my dad. Alone. Holding a gift bag with a stuffed animal poking out the top. I didn't let him in. He stood on the porch, shifting from foot to foot, and said they were just trying to keep things fair, that they didn't mean to hurt me, that the car for Emily was a timing thing. That they always planned to do something special for me too. After the baby came. I asked him why they didn't just tell me that. Why they lied. Why they couldn't be there for me on the day I needed them most. I told him about the text from Mom. The silence from Emily. The post. Caption. He said it wasn't Emily's fault. That she didn't know about the shower. That's when I knew he was lying. I had the group chat. I had the reminder. I had screenshots. He saw everything. She just didn't care. I handed the gift bag back and told him not to come around again. That if they wanted to be in my child's life, they'd have to start by being honest about everything. And I meant everything. I went inside and did something I never thought I'd do. I pulled out a manila folder I kept at the back of my desk drawer. Inside were copies of the checks I wrote to help my parents when they were behind on property taxes 5 years ago. The same year Emily moved back home and didn't work for 9 months. I pulled up emails I had from my mom asking for help covering a few things, back when I was barely making rent. I had receipts. Literally. They had rewritten the narrative so many times, They forgot I'd kept the original version. And now I was going to do something with it. I didn't want to stoop to their level. I didn't want to post something vague and dramatic or air everything out on social media. But I also wasn't going to sit quietly while they rewrote the story. Because that's what they were doing. I'd already heard from my cousin Sarah that my parents were heartbroken and didn't understand why Amanda suddenly cut everyone off. According to them, I had a hormonal outburst and shut them out without warning. The car. Oh, that was months in the making. Emily. She didn't even know about the baby shower. It would have been laughable if it hadn't been so calculated. They knew exactly what they were doing. They were covering their tracks, manipulating the narrative before I could tell my side. But I had something they didn't. Proof. I pulled out everything. Screenshots of our group texts where I'd sent the baby shower invite. Weeks in advance. Read receipts from both my mom and Emily. The text from my mom saying they couldn't come because they were drowning in bills. The Instagram post from Emily, proudly standing next to her brand new Lexus with a caption thanking our parents for the upgrade. And then the kicker, copies of every check and Venmo receipt from the last 5 years. The ones I sent my parents to help them with bills, groceries, repairs. Every time they said they were behind, I showed up. Quietly. Without asking for anything in return. I compiled it all into a private Google Drive folder. Labeled each file clearly. No comments, no personal notes. Just facts. Then I sent the link to 4 people. My Aunt Carol, the one who had called me after the fallout. My cousins Jenna and Marcus, and my grandma. People who mattered. People who'd known me since I was a kid. People who I knew had been getting phone calls and half-truths over the last few weeks. No long message. Just, I thought you should see the full picture. I'm not looking for drama. I just don't want to be lied about. What happened next surprised even me. Within 2 hours, Jenna called. Her voice was tight, angry. She said she'd seen right through Emily's Instagram post but had held her tongue. She told me she was done pretending things were fine, that she always knew something was off with how my parents treated us. She said, I just didn't think they'd go this far. Later that day, Marcus texted me one sentence, you were right to walk away. Then came the message from Grandma. That one broke me. She wrote, sweetheart, I had no idea. I'm ashamed of how they treated you. I love you and I'm so proud of you. You don't deserve any of this. It was the first time since the baby shower that I cried. I cried because I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. And I wasn't alone. But not everyone reacted that way. Because 2 days later, Emily posted again. Another photo, this time of her hand on her stomach with the caption, some of us have to heal in silence. Not everyone makes noise to feel important. I didn't need to ask. I knew what she was doing. She wasn't pregnant, she was mocking me. It was a twisted, attention-hungry move and frankly it was pathetic. But she got attention. Her comment section lit up with people saying you're so strong, and ignore the haters. All carefully curated, all performative. I said nothing. But I wasn't done. Because the next day I sent one final message. It was a simple email addressed to my parents and Emily. I attached one image. The group text screenshot showing the invite to the baby shower, the one Emily had seen and ignored. No explanation. No anger. Then one line beneath it. You knew. You chose not to come. Please don't contact me again. And I hit send. I blocked their emails. I removed them from the baby registry. I updated the delivery room list. They would not be there when my baby arrived. Not because I wanted to punish them, but because they didn't earn a seat at the table. And for the first time I didn't feel guilty. The day my son was born was quiet in the best way. There were no hospital hallway dramas, no fake tears, no forced smiles from people pretending to care. Just my husband, calm and steady, and his parents who showed up with a bag full of snacks, a soft blue blanket, and the kind of warmth I hadn't felt from my own family in years. We named him Noah. When the nurse handed him to me, I didn't think about who wasn't there. I looked at my son's face and felt something click, like I was being handed a second chance at everything. Love that wouldn't have to be earned. A family that would be built with honesty, not guilt. But I won't lie. I expected something. A call. A voicemail. A bouquet with an anonymous card. Some kind of awkward olive branch from my parents. Nothing. 3 days later I got a notification. My husband's cousin had tagged me in a post welcoming baby Noah. A simple, sweet photo of me holding him in the hospital bed. I smiled, not thinking twice. Then the messages started. Not from my parents. From people I hadn't spoken to in years. Family, friends, distant cousins, old neighbors. All of them saying versions of the same thing. Wait, your parents didn't even come to the hospital? Why didn't your sister post anything? I thought you all were close? The cracks were getting wider. Then one message landed in my inbox that made me pause. It was from my mom's best friend, Linda. A woman who'd been like an aunt growing up. She wrote, "I saw the photos. Congratulations. I just want you to know, your mom is devastated. But she still doesn't think she did anything wrong. I told her to reach out. She said you'd make it ugly. I hope someday you both find peace, but I understand why you're angry. I would be too." That was the moment I understood. They weren't staying away out of respect, or shame, or love. They were staying away because they still didn't believe they did anything wrong. They believed they were the victims. The parents who bought their favorite daughter a car while skipping their first grandchild's baby shower. The parents who ghosted the hospital. Who sent nothing. Who said nothing. And still believed I was the problem. I didn't respond to Linda. I fed my son, held him while he slept, and sat with the quiet. Because this time the silence meant peace. Not distance. Not punishment. Just peace. My son would grow up knowing exactly what love looked like. And it wouldn't come with strings, competition, or cold apologies disguised as misunderstandings. He wouldn't grow up questioning whether he was enough. He wouldn't beg to be seen. And I would never again fight to be chosen by people who had every chance, and still didn't show up. Still didn't show up. Still didn't show up.